The top 3 best-selling vehicles in the United States are pickup trucks. And for the last 47 years, the best-selling pickup truck has been the Ford F-150. Here in the Philippines, pickups are also a very popular choice, with thousands of units being sold each month. Now, I may get some flack for saying this, but I've never really seen the appeal. Because unless you have to haul a lot of cargo or tow something, why buy something that's less comfortable and so massive, given all the other choices that are out there? And you can say all you want in the comment section to enlighten me on why pickups are so popular. But I'll save you the energy because I'm already starting to change the way I feel about pickups, thanks to this. Presenting the 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. Let me start by giving you some background on why pickups have never really been on my wish list. And I'm going to preface this discussion by saying that when it comes to automobiles, there's always a compromise because you can never have the best of both worlds. For instance, if you want something that's small and fun to drive like a sports car, you're going to have to forego some practicality. A car with a lot of performance means that you're going to have to sacrifice good fuel mileage. And in the case of pickups, yes, they do have a higher payload, but that also means that ride quality isn't always the best. And that's because a lot of them use leaf springs, which makes it feel like you're riding around in a pogo stick. But Ford Rangers have generally been relatively comfortable, compared to other pickups, even the lower tier variants with leaf springs. But this isn't one of those variants. This is the Ranger Raptor, the top of the line, which takes comfort up another notch because it has double wishbone suspension up front and 2.5-inch Fox shocks for the front and rear. Not to get all technical, but a double wishbone makes use of an upper control arm which optimizes tire contact with the ground. This control arm also takes the brunt of lateral forces, allowing the coil spring and shock absorber to just deal with the vertical forces, such as bumps and imperfections. In short, a double wishbone gives you relatively better handling and a smoother ride compared to a McPherson strut suspension system. The Fox 2.5-inch shocks also have what they call position-sensitive damping, which stiffens and softens damping depending on the forces at play. The rear suspension also has a Watts linkage, and what that does is it mitigates lateral forces to keep the vehicle stable. And that comes in really handy, especially for a pickup, because pickups don't necessarily have the best weight distribution, given the fact that they're much lighter in the rear, especially when you're not hauling anything around. And it would have been nice to take this up to Tanay where I could demonstrate this vehicle's suspension's capabilities, but I just didn't want to run the risk of going up there given the fact that I may run into the brainless version of Evel Knievel who has the tendency to overshoot the curves on my way up there. So I'll just stay within city limits, not to say that driving around in the city is risk-free, given everyone's, or a lot of people's, misguided notion of what share the road means. Anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox because the point I really wanna make here is that there's no compromise when it comes to ride comfort and performance when it comes to the Ford Ranger Raptor. But another reason why I'm not a huge fan of pickups is because of their sheer size. I mean, you don't have to look at a brochure or spec sheet to know that this is huge. But the Raptor does a really good job in hiding its mass, which is a trick that I have yet to learn. There's good visibility and the steering is direct and responsive, so it doesn't feel like you're driving a huge boat. And considering its size, the turning circle is still pretty decent at around 43 feet. Another nifty feature is the 360 camera, which helps you squeeze in and out of tight spaces with ease. And what I like about this is the camera button is easily accessible. So if you're unsure about scraping the exterior, you can get a bird's eye view with the touch of a button. But highlighting this vehicle's maneuverability and comfort is still understating how good it really feels to drive. Now, I've heard a lot of people yap about the fact that this doesn't come with the 3-liter V6 twin turbo, which has almost double the horsepower. But I would argue that the powertrain that this comes with is actually more suitable for Philippine conditions. I mean, considering how congested our roads are, I doubt you'll get the chance to exploit 400 horsepower or anything close to that, right? And, trust me when I say that what's under the hood of this thing is more than par for the course. It still has 210 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. So peak torque is delivered early on in the rev range at around 1750 RPM. And that means that you always have power on demand. The only time I find myself craving for a bit more power is when I go north of 4000 RPM. But then again, I don't mind having it earlier down or lower down in the rev range because that's really where it's more usable. And the 10-speed transmission also does a really good job in putting the power down. The shifts are seamless. And what I really like about it is it doesn't gear hunt to find the right gear for you. Although when you're cruising at low speed and you have the sudden urge to nail it, you will find that it will have to downshift twice sometimes if you're driving really aggressively. But that's fine, again, because the shifts are seamless. You'll hardly notice it. So the more time I spend behind the wheel of this thing, the more it helps me overcome any hesitations I have towards pickup trucks. Because again, the ride is extremely comfortable, and despite its size, it doesn't make it feel like you're driving a thread through a needle. It's pretty easy to drive. But one thing I want to highlight is the fact that what the Ford Ranger Raptor has to offer doesn't only appeal to the guy behind the wheel. Pickups used to be extremely utilitarian. I mean, back in the day, you'd be lucky if your pickup had power windows or power steering or air conditioning. But, they've come a long way since then. And what's great about the Raptor, aside from giving you every creature comfort you could think of, is that it also exudes character. And it does that without being too loud. It has just the right amount of aesthetic bits on the interior and exterior without making it look as if someone went on a shopping spree in Banawe or Lazada. It's tastefully executed. You don't get an overdose of body decals or accessories. There's just the right amount to make it stand out. And it does that without looking desperate for attention. But going back to why the Raptor appeals to both the driver and passenger, this gives you everything you could ever need and want. The seats are not only stylish, they're extremely comfortable. You also get power seats for both the driver and front passenger with heaps of adjustability. Rear passengers also get adequate space and creature comforts like an armrest, charge ports, and rear air vents. There's adequate utility too. But I would say that the front occupants are pampered the most with niceties like dual zone climate control, ambient lighting, and a wireless charger. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are also wireless. And despite the use of screens for your infotainment and instrument cluster, I like how you can control the AC and audio with physical buttons. But is it perfect? Well, of course it isn't. And if I were to really nitpick, I would say that the infotainment could be a lot faster, especially when connected to your phone. And I also find myself inadvertently activating the voice commands when I want to turn the volume up using the buttons on the steering wheel. But I guess that's just my middle-aged brain trying to catch up or cope with all this technology. Because overall, I think that the Ford Ranger Raptor is a great vehicle, and it's really starting to change my mind or the way I feel about pickups. So, will I buy one? Well, no. Only because I don't have 2,339,000 pesos to spare for a new car right now. But it is definitely something I would aspire for. Now, if you're wondering why this costs significantly more than the previous model, well, aside from the fact that it's really not uncommon for newer models to cost more, the fact is you're still getting a bang for your buck because you're getting more car here, especially considering the advanced driver assistance technology that this comes with. You get features like an adjustable speed limiter, adaptive cruise control with stop and go lane centering, auto high beam, autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian detection, pre-collision assist, dynamic brake support, distance alert, distance indication, forward collision warning system, evasive steer assist, post-impact braking, lane departure warning and lane keeping aid, driver alert system, blind spot information system with cross-traffic alert and braking, a 360 camera, reverse brake assist, active park assist, and a tire pressure monitoring system. So to sum it up, the short time I've spent with the Ford Ranger Raptor has made me go from not being a fan of pickups to adding this one on my wish list. And that says a lot. Thanks for watching.